Welcome to episode 3 of Basically a Therapist, but without the degree. I'm Lauren Larson, and I am so excited you're here. So we're going to do things a little bit differently. I recently had an idea to open the podcast up to you guys and have you email me your situations that you would want advice on, or maybe just a different perspective. And so you would send me your situation. I would discuss it on the podcast, and you would stay anonymous. I realized that my sweet spot is when people come to me with their situations, and then I kind of get to sift through the details and sift through all of that. It's just where I kind of shine. And so think of it as like a spin on a magazine advice column. Do they even do those anymore? I really don't even know. I haven't bought a magazine in years. So if that's something that you're interested in, you can email me at basicallyaTherapistpodcast@gmail.com. So let's get into it. Anonymous says, how to work through different love languages in your marriage when you're the complete opposite. For instance, my husband's love language is physical touch, but I struggle in the area because of childhood trauma. Mine is quality time, and he is the busiest human in the world. Send help. First of all, I feel you. I feel you so much. That is an area that my husband and I have struggled with our entire relationship. So my husband's love language is physical touch, which is my lowest. And then mine is quality time, which is his lowest. So we have definitely gone through it, and you are not alone. But let me back up before I dive into that. If you don't know what the 5 love languages are, it is a book by Dr. Gary Chapman, and I'll link it in the show notes for you in case you're interested. But the premise is that there are 5 different ways that we love and receive love. So we give love and receive love in one of these, maybe 1 to 2 of these 5 ways. And the book breaks down each of the 5 love languages, what they look like, how you can implement them in your marriage. And it's basically like a guide to help you love well and also communicate how you need to be loved. So let's look at the 5 love languages. So the first one that we can talk about is physical touch. So physical touch, this person feels most loved when you touch them. And this can be both sexual and non-sexual. So this can look like hugs, massages, kisses, foot rubs, head scratches, sex, cuddling. That's what that looks like. Words of affirmation. So this person feels most loved when you build them up, when you encourage them, when you breathe life into them. So this can look like maybe sending a kind and thoughtful text, or even writing a letter about what you admire about them, how amazing they are, what they mean to you. You could put a Post-it note in their car or on their mirror just to tell them maybe how hot they are. You can send a voice note, or even just posting about them on social media. Number 3, gifts. So this person feels most love when you give them something that they've been wanting, they've been needing, or they like and they've had their eye on and they just haven't gotten it. But it's like a thoughtful gift. It's not just anything. It's a thoughtful gift. It shows a sense of thoughtfulness because you've been listening to what they've been saying, that they want, they need, or they like. So for example, I like to keep notes in my phone. So when I'm hanging out with somebody and they mention something that they like or that they want to go do, I will write a note in their contact on your phone. So that way I just know what they're interested in, what they like, and I can just have a running list of things like that. It makes it a lot easier when there's a birthday, there's an anniversary, there's a holiday, and you can just go to your list on your phone and boom, you don't have to sit there and sweat during those times. I don't know what to get them because you have an idea on your phone. And giving gifts, it doesn't have to be an extravagant thing. It can be simple, it can be cute, it can be sweet. So this can look like maybe just gifting a Starbucks gift card or surprising them with their favorite snack or drink. Giving them flowers, or nowadays plants is really, those are a really big deal. For example, my husband, his AirPods kind of broke. They weren't working for most of this year. and he wouldn't replace them. He just doesn't like to spend that kind of money on himself that much. And so I did. I surprised him. I bought him some AirPods. And honestly, it was a gift to both of us because he got what he needed. And then there was no more complaining. Number 4, quality time. So this is the person that likes to spend uninterrupted, thus the term quality time with you. This person doesn't need a lot of time. They need quality time. So it's not quantity, it's quality. So we're not looking for like hours and hours of your time, but quite frankly, at least for me, I kind of want to do my own thing after a while. So I don't need to be spending hours and hours and hours with you. I'm good. Just give me a solid 30 to maybe 60 minutes to like listen to me, listen to my day, have a good conversation, connect, talk about you, talk about how you're doing, talk about us, anything like that. And so quality time can look like I said, a good conversation with the phones away, putting the phones down, going on a vacation together or going on a walk around the neighborhood, playing a board game together or a card game together, watching a show, going out to dinner. And again, it doesn't have to be anything major. It's just the quality of the time, not the quantity. And then number 5, the last love language is acts of service. And so this one's a runner-up for me. This is my secondary love language. This person feels most loved when you help them around the house or help them get things done or just anything like that. So this can look like helping out around the house, like doing the dishes, laundry, cleaning, making dinner, gassing up the car, planning the trips. So for me, I don't necessarily love planning trips, but my husband is a great trip planner. And so he just tells me what to pack, where we're going, and then I just show up. And it's just the best of both worlds. Another one is taking care of the kids, like taking care of their nighttime routine and getting them in bed. Another great example would be, so like last night, my husband and I were at a church function and we drove separately. He left before I did. And then I left probably like 15 minutes, 20 minutes after he did. And he had the car turned on and heated up inside. So it was nice and toasty when I got in there. So sweet. Best human in the world. Love it. And honestly, I kind of feel like this book needs to be edited because I feel like food in and of itself is a love language. Can I get an amen? But honestly, it kind of goes under like acts of service, I guess. But man, food is a love language all on its own. So if you have never taken the 5 love languages quiz, I 10 out of 10 recommend that you do. I'm going to link it in the show notes. But even if it's been a long time since you've taken it, I would recommend that you do it. It's so fun to just learn about your needs, your spouse's needs, and just to learn how to love them in the best way that they need. So when you take it, I want to hear what your spouse's love language is and what yours is too. But when it comes to the 5 love languages, one of the biggest issues that you're going to hear people like Anonymous is that it's hard to love somebody who has a different love language than you, especially if it's your lowest. And so we naturally want to show love the way that we want to be loved. And that's not always the same way that our spouse receives love. And so if you have differing love languages, here are some ways that you could work through it. So number 1, you can just observe how your spouse shows love. It's pretty obvious, like whether that's giving a lot of encouragement, like words of affirmation, whether they just want to spend time with you, quality time, they're constantly touching you, physical touch, gifting you, anything like that. Like you can tell what their love language is just by observing. And also you can tell underneath of that love language ways that they like to be loved within that love language, if that makes sense. Another way is you can just ask your spouse when they have felt most loved by you. That's going to be a great question to ask. Like when do you feel most loved by me? What is it that I'm doing that makes you feel the most loved? That'll be perfect. Another way is to, if you don't know how to love them in their love language, just look it up, Google it, look at different ideas on how you can love somebody with the love language of physical touch. There are so many different ways that you can look up on Google. It is such a huge help. I've done it plenty of times for my relationship, and it definitely helps a lot. And then it kind of helps you to be creative because you have an idea, you have a baseline of what could be helpful, and then you can also build on that as well. And then also set a reminder on your phone. There's nothing wrong with that. If you need to be intentional, if you know that it's not your strong suit, set a reminder on your phone daily to show love to your spouse in the way that they need to be loved. Marriage is, it's all about sacrifice. It's about putting the other person first. And I truly believe that when we start loving our spouses in the way that they need to be loved, over time, they tend to show us love in the way that we want to be loved. Like their love tank is so full that it overflows to you, and they want to show you love the way that you need it. And I don't think that's every way, and it's not definitely doing it just to get love back. You're not loving them so that you get the love back. That's not the point of this. Marriage is a sacrifice. Love is a sacrifice. So you are doing this to love them and to show them love in the way that they need. Think about it like this. Like when our spouses feel loved, when they feel better about themselves, they show up better for themselves, and they show up better for you and your family. And I think the way to do that is to love them in the way that they need to be loved. You can't give from empty. So if you are feeling empty, and that you're just giving and giving and you're not getting in return, talk to God. Go to God about that. Let him work on it. Let him show you what to do, and let him fill your tank. Let him fill your love tank. I know that it's hard, but don't take it personally if your spouse can't or even won't show you the love that you need. In my experience, it's usually not about you. It's tied up in past traumas or childhood or experiences in other relationships or lack of emotional maturity. Age doesn't equal maturity, so it could be that too. The only person that you can control is you and the way that you show up. You cannot control them and how they show up. You can express your needs. You can make sure that you are showing up, but you can't force them to show up. But I will say that this does not define your worth, and it doesn't define you, because it's not about you. I said this in episode 2, and I'm going to say it again. As followers of Jesus, we are called to love one another. That is our command. Even if we're not getting love from our spouse, we are still called to show up in love anyways. And that is hard. That's when our focus needs to be on God rather than the external, rather than what we're not getting, rather than our spouse. And when we're focused on keeping the score, it goes from being a selfless love to being a selfish love. And it's not about us. It's about us being Jesus to them. It's about honoring God and honoring his child. So take the focus off of yourself and others and put it on God, because I think that's where you're going to really, I know that that's where you're going to get your fulfillment from. So in regards to the childhood trauma piece, here's what I think. If you haven't already, seek professional help to work through that trauma. What happened to us in childhood doesn't need to be carried with us for the rest of our lives. It can almost be like a third person in your marriage, this trauma. It's like a baggage. It's like always lingering. It's just here all the time. And I want you to know that healing is available for you. And your trauma doesn't need to dictate how you show up in your marriage, and it doesn't need to dictate how you show up for yourself. So seek professional help if you haven't already. Secondly, invite your spouse into your healing process with you if you're able to. And what I mean by that is share with them that this is an area that you're struggling with, physical touch, because of trauma. and let them know that you're seeking help. There's nothing wrong with that. Being vulnerable, having that safe space in your spouse to share what you're going through is a good thing. Invite them into the process. Because I feel like if your spouse doesn't know, or if they don't understand what's going on, they're not going to understand what you're thinking and what you're feeling, and it's going to feel like a rejection to them. Whereas, yes, it may still feel like a rejection to them if you can't love them through physical touch. At least they understand, or can have an understanding, that it's not about them, that you are going through something that has nothing to do with them. And then that allows them to show up for you and support you and encourage you and stand with you in that, so you're not carrying it alone. Find ways that you can touch your spouse that feel comfortable for you, while still being able to show them the love that they need. You two are a team, and you two are fighting against the problem, not against each other. So it's you against the problem, not against each other. And then pray. God is a God of healing. He can restore physical touch for you to where it feels safe and healthy and comfortable. It doesn't have to be traumatizing. God created sex. God created physical touch. And because humans have perverted it, doesn't mean that God can't restore it and make it better for you. And I'm believing in that for you. I'm standing in the gap for you, and I'm believing in that for you, that God can restore physical touch to you, and you can feel safe, and you can show up for your spouse and love him in the way that he needs, confidently, without the trauma dictating anything. What man means for evil, God can use for good. I believe that. The 5 love languages are a great tool that are meant to help you grow closer to your spouse and deepen the connection with them. Just think of this as like another tool in the tool belt of your marriage. You're just stacking it up. You're prepared, you're ready for the situations and the scenarios and the different things that life is going to throw your way. But while you are going through the 5 love languages together, whether it's for the first time or you're revisiting it together, have patience, have grace, and be willing to communicate a lot. Think of it as a learning experience. You're learning together. Like I said last week, put down the ego and be vulnerable. Ask if how you're showing up is good for your spouse, or if there are ways for you to improve. And if you're the one being asked, create a safe space for your spouse to come to you and ask that kind of question without fear of ridicule or criticism or defensiveness or anger or anything like that. Lay down the egos, lay down the pride. Your marriage is worth the effort. It's worth the work. It's worth the intention. It's worth the healing. And it's worth the fight. I am cheering for you, and I am praying for you. I know you got this. Thank you for tuning into Basically a Therapist, but without the degree. Check out the show notes for all of the suggested resources, and like and subscribe. And if you're really feeling this episode, share it with somebody that you think it'll help and encourage in their relationship.
Yeah.